What about caffeine? Think about caffeine, folks. It's the only drug kids can get their hands on without any problem. The only unregulated drug for children in the United States is caffeine. It's easier for them to get a cup of coffee than to get Benadryl, right? Caffeine is unregulated. Kids can get their hands on all the coffee they want. You go to any local Starbucks or Pete's Coffee, go to any place, 10 o'clock at night, the kid can walk in, get a double mocha, a triple espresso. Nobody cards them. Nobody says, what are you doing, right? Any child can get caffeine anytime they like. And there's marketing directly to caffeine to children. So again, so start thinking about what's going on with the kids. Why should they want caffeine? What do they need caffeine for? But there's a lot of marketing to kids of caffeine products. There are no regulations on getting caffeine into children. So now you have energy drinks, and I'm sure you guys can know the brands. If you have teenagers in your life, they know the drinks. And they're actually marketing directly to teenagers now. One of the big main companies that's been growing in sales, its marketing theme is to simply market the products to the video game industry. The video games are geared to staying up late at night. Go to, here in town and here in our community, the laser tag place. And whenever there's a 3-day weekend, they'll sponsor all-night marathons of playing video games or laser tag and that kind of thing. There's kind of this push towards staying up late at night, right? So it's part of being more grown-up-like. So kids behave more grown-up-like by behaving like us and getting less sleep. Because ultimately, if you think about it, if you lead a very full life, sleeping is the greatest inconvenience in your life, right? Well, how would your life be different if you did not need to sleep? Imagine all you could achieve if you did not need to sleep. So does your child view sleeping as an inconvenience? Do you model sleep to your children as an inconvenience? Or the opposite, as an escape, a way of getting away from doing things, right? Ultimately, they have to view sleep as part of nutrition and exercise, something that's good for them. Excuse me. Other things to think about when we talk to children about sleeping, and particularly adolescents, but this is with all age groups. Especially, nobody's really mentioned children with disabilities here tonight. I think I missed that. I don't know if we talked about that or not. But let's say you have a child with autism, a child with mental retardation, right? If I ask any one of you right now, why did you get out of bed this morning? Why did you pick that exact moment in time? If you had a stopwatch, what determined your time of getting out of bed this morning? Okay? Waking up is biological. Getting out of bed is volitional. The first decision you make every single day is, do I get out of bed? Right? You don't even think about it, right? But you waking up is one thing, getting out of bed is a whole different thing. How do you determine you're getting out of bedtime? Everybody will always say the same thing. I get out of bed because I have to. Have to what? Have to do exactly, and they'll tell you, well, I had to go take care of my kids. And when you wake up in the morning, you go through a quick analysis. Is it the weekend I can sleep in? Do I have to go to school? Do I have to catch an early morning flight? And then you jump out of bed like the bed's on fire, right? So we've all been there, right? So you got to think about people's motivation to get out of bed, but also what is their motivation to go to sleep? A child with disabilities may not care if they make it to their program that day. They may not have that incentive. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. So you have to think a little bit about what's their incentive to go to bed and get out of and to go to bed. With your teenager, what is their incentive to go to bed? Do they really want to do better in school? Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But you have to ask that question. Because it all comes down to the main issue. Why sleep in the first place? I brought some brochures with me tonight, and I left them at the front desk so you guys can pick them up. There are brochures there for small children, toddlers who are not sleeping, school-age kids who snore. And there's some for adolescents and young adults on this condition called delayed sleep phase syndrome. Delayed sleep phase syndrome is the most common pattern of insomnia in teenagers. If you see insomnia, if there are teenagers in your life, there are kids somewhere with delayed sleep phase syndrome around there. And these are children who characterize themselves as being night owls, and they have difficulty falling asleep. Not really staying asleep, but falling asleep. Most adults with insomnia have trouble staying asleep. These teenagers, and it's mostly teenagers, have trouble falling asleep. So it's a different pattern of insomnia. It's a very common condition. And what's important about delayed sleep phase syndrome is that it was identified historically in a group of kids who were thought to be depressed. They weren't doing well in school, their grades were going down, they were having a hard time getting up in the morning, and they thought they were depressed. They gave medication for depression, it did not work. They looked at their sleep patterns, and once they identified that as a specific sleep disorder, once they changed their sleep patterns and improved their sleep, their grades improved. Delayed sleep phase is extremely common. If you work with teenagers, there's delayed sleep phase out there. And I didn't put any slides on this, but I mentioned snoring, so let me talk about snoring just briefly. There's no such thing as normal snoring. Simply stated, listen right now. Right? Everybody's breathing, nobody's making any noise. Thankfully, right? There's no snoring out there right now. If you think of it this way, animals are most vulnerable to being attacked by the predators while they're sleeping. If you're a predator and want to go capture your prey, the best time to capture your prey is while your prey is sleeping. Animals are vulnerable to being attacked while they're sleeping. We actually protect ourselves while we're sleeping in different ways. We won't have time to get into it, how humans do it, but it's a known thing that animals must protect themselves at all times, especially when they're sleeping. Sleeping is a time of vulnerability. It makes no sense for you to make noise when your guard is down. There are no snoring wild animals. Okay? Only snoring we know of is humans and domesticated animals. Farm animals will snore. Old dogs, old cats will snore. Nothing snores in the wild. Doesn't make any sense to do that. It makes no sense to make noise while you're breathing. So whenever you hear any questions about audible breathing or snoring, it's always something to be paid attention to. The American Academy of Pediatrics put out a practice guideline saying all children in the United States, all kids in the U.S. should be screened as part of their well child care for snoring. It didn't say they need sleep studies, don't need expensive tests. All it simply said is the doctor should ask, does your child snore? The reason is because if a child is snoring, they have trouble breathing at night. And if they have trouble breathing at night, they may have trouble sleeping at night. And when kids don't get enough sleep, what happens? They have trouble paying attention. And it turns out that these kids with sleep disorders mimic attention deficit disorder. They mimic ADD. So any child with any question of learning problems, trouble focusing in school, maybe it's ADD, maybe they need a little Ritalin, maybe not. There's no harm in making sure that they're sleeping well. Because any of us who don't sleep well, if you give us something to make us more alert, we'll feel better. Just because somebody responds to medication does not mean you have the right diagnosis. So it is possible that a child may not be sleeping well and they impact their daytime behavior. When adults, when we don't get enough sleep, we kind of feel it, we want to yawn a little bit, right? When we don't get enough sleep, we might fall asleep, right? And people think that we fall asleep because we're bored. That's not true. You don't sleep from monotony. Monotony does not make you sleepy. When we're children, those of you who have children, right, and you wouldn't be here if you didn't have kids in your lives, children, when they are bored, do they fall asleep? No. They misbehave, right? You will only fall asleep if you're sleep deprived. Monotony, boredom, will unmask your sleepiness. You should not fall asleep simply because you're bored. If you're bored as a child, look for something to do. Now, when we don't get enough sleep as adults, the first thing that happens is our mood is affected. We get a little cranky. Then if we get further sleep deprived, next thing affected is our memory. The last thing affected is our motor performance. So you can drive your car in a bad mood with very little sleep. With children, if they're not getting enough sleep, what's going to happen is they're going to have trouble paying attention in monotonous environments. So they'll tell you, oh, when the kid is playing a video game, he's fine. But the classroom, he's not focused, he's not paying attention. It may well be a sleep disorder. So I want to conclude with that, and I want to thank you for your time.